So, have you ever noticed when people say, well, this is your truth and this is my truth and they're different and that is okay? Or when people say, well, it depends what you mean by truth. My take is that those phrases are like viruses at the end of the day and are danger, very big one to this society because it this idea of having multiple truths and all of those being subjective and depending on the personal context comes from a philosophical branch that is called moral relativism. Moral relativism is, and I'm going to read the definition here, is a philosophical view that moral judgments are not absolute or universal, but rather relative to the individual, culture, or historical context. What it says basically is that there is not such thing as truth. There are only variations of it depending on the personal context of the person's past experiences. So, for example, I could say that sugar is bad for your health, and that is an objective truth in the majority of occasions. Probably like 99.99%. I'm pretty sure every person who eats sugar, it's pretty bad for them if it's like a synthetic sugar. But then another person could say, yeah, that is not truth. Um, Sugar is actually good for me. It makes me feel happy and energized and makes my day. So it's all subjective to what you say. It's all subjective to what makes you feel. And all of that, if we dig deeper, comes from one place. And it is the fear of accepting responsibility of something. It is the desire to be irresponsible for your words, your actions, and the outcomes of those. Because if I say that it actually makes me feel good, the sugar, well, I'm not lying. It's making me feel good. So yeah, it's cool. Like I can eat sugar on a daily basis now, and no one can judge me for that because the sugar is good for me. And if they say it's not, well, it's because it's their truth. Maybe they're right on their own way, but it does not apply to me anyway. And it's not difficult to predict that the fruits of it becomes really horrendous, like murder, pedophilia, violence, sexual immorality, and many, many, many other horrible things. Right? Because and this is an extreme example, but it's completely true. Because if I say, well, I like children in a romantical way, then, well, it's your truth. Who can deny that it is your truth and that you do not have rights for this? Nobody, because it's your personal truth. When in reality, the truth is that it is objectively bad to have romantic and sexual relationship with children. It is just bad. There is actually no need for me to explain this because you and me and everybody else comprehends it. And this is the point of having some universal truths that work not depending on your feelings. They work by facts. The whole thing about the truth is that there is the whole definition of it, and it is the property as of a statement of being in accord with fact or reality. So opinions can be many, and what actually people when people say like this is my truth, what they're actually saying it is this is my opinion, and like I don't care about yours. This is my opinion. I'm gonna keep it. But the truth is only one. There are things, therefore, that are objectively good and they're objectively bad. If I said to you to murder a person is bad, you say, yes, I agree with you, it is bad. Now you can argue that, oh yeah, but if I kill a person who is shooting people with AK-47 in a restaurant, it is good because I save people. Yeah, you're right, obviously. But don't be stupid and don't specify and don't make cases that are genuinely out of this world usually. I'm talking about general situation when you kill a person because of hate, because of jealousy or whatever it is bad. Because human lives matter and that is an objective truth. Why can we kill animals and not humans? Because humans have inherent value, different to animals. Humans have soul. Humans are created in the image of God. And that is essentially the reason why we should not kill humans. That is the reason all the wars, all the genocides, the murderers are societally accepted as bad things. The good things are, and now, I'm getting even mad that I have to explain to you, is that you need to help your neighbor, you need to love your neighbor, you need to love your enemy, you need to give to the poor, you need to sacrifice for love, you need to respect your parents, and you need to be responsible for the things that you have and you steward for. And all these things actually came from Christian morality, if you didn't notice. All of those are. And so, where I am getting to, right? If there is one truth, one universal that is immutable, unchangeable, and it is just a fact, then what is the truth? Well, John 14:6. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. There was only one person in the whole history that said those words in that specific order. I am the way, I'm the truth, and the life. Here you go. This is your answer. Who is the truth? Is the person who said it. Jesus Christ, a literal God, incarnated in the body of a human. Now, how do we believe this? Well, we believe it through evidence that backs his words. And first of all, we have to know if he existed or not, this guy, or I'm just making stuff up. Well, there are historical documents that talked about his existence. There are historical documents from people both who saw people in person, people who did not see him in person, people in the government, Roman government, people in another government, Jewish government, religious leaders at the time, and and historians. Actually, I'm not sure which is the word, but people who do history for the full time in the century that he lived and in the posterior centuries. There are physical copies of manuscripts that talk about him, and they match almost perfectly one another. And they're written in different languages, like the ancient Greek, like Hebrew, and more and more and more. And so we have quite a lot of evidence, quite a lot, in the same way or more than the other people of that age who we believe that existed, like Plato, for example. Now, okay, well, we proved that he lived and he really existed on this planet Earth, and he still exists because he's God. But how do we know that he's just not lying about it? Well, his way of living. Did he live like those things were actually true? If he is truly the way, if we follow his way of living, will we get to the truth? Will we get to the life? Will we experience what he said what will happen? The love that he gives us? Will we experience peace? Will we experience extreme joy? Will we become good people for our neighbors and do things that he did? Yeah, there are millions and millions of examples of people who live the life that Jesus told us to live and who believe in him and had faith in for him to change their lives. Also, in his 33 years of life on this earth, he indeed did some miraculous things. He proved to be God by doing amazing miracles like turning water into wine, like walking on water, like resurrecting people, like being resurrected and ascending to heaven, and millions and millions of things. And a quick fact, if he, like, the whole point of Christianity would have not existed if there was no proof about his resurrection, if we did not know that he resurrected. And so since we did know that he resurrected, that proves that he was indeed God, and the things that he said were truth. And the last, and probably one of the most impactful evidences, is that his disciples were willing to die for him because they knew what they were dying for. Dozens, hundreds, thousands of disciples, both in the time where of his time and later on in the new centuries, died for this truth. And people don't get crucified, stoned, boiled because of some kind of lie or some lying scheme. They die for the truth, for something they truly believe with all their heart, that they saw, they experienced, and they didn't have. Knowing this, here's a pretty compelling evidence of being truth, the actual truth of this life. Because truth is what corresponds to reality. God is the source of ultimate reality. He is the life, He is the way. Jesus claimed to reveal God fully, and His resurrection confirms His claim. Therefore, Jesus is the truth.